Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And on today's newsflash, as midterm vote is getting closer, just 4 days away now, Trump is reprising a favorite message, fear of immigrants. And it could be a pretty big deal for him when we get down the line. What the progressive surge in rural America means for this election, we'll take a look at how it really has risen, and the rising tide can lift all boats, but we'll see about that. Also, the progressive groups are making a last-minute push for Kara Eastman as corporate Democrats are preparing to celebrate sinking her. Strong progressive candidate there, which is pretty credible. Also, finally, Jeffrey Toobin called Chris Kobach a racist to his face on live TV. We'll take a look at his incredible reactions. A fun little story there to end your Friday. But first, we're going to get through these because they're very, very important. It's that simple. President Trump's closing argument is now clear. Build tents, cities for migrants, and birthright citizenship. Fear the caravan, send active duty troops to the border, and refuse asylum. Immigration has been the animating issue with the Trump presidency, and now with the possibility that Republicans could face significant losses in the midterm elections on Tuesday, the president has fully embraced a dark anti-immigrant message in the hope that stoking fear will motivate voters to reject Democrats. And by the way, a lot of the Trump supporters are pretty much very well connected. There's not too much that they do differently from the rest of them. They turn on Fox News at night, they scroll through Facebook throughout the day, they pay attention to what Trump says, and they're very well, that's a good thing. They're not very, different. There's not too many different, if Trump wants to get a message out, they're all going to hear it, and it's going to penetrate through their minds very, very quickly, and they know to fear immigrants. They know something for that long and such a period of time. That it's actually quite incredible. The biggest, and you know that they are definitely going to try and really get out and vote, because there've been a lot of fear among this caravan. That's gonna really, I hate to put political terms, just a bunch of people seeking asylum, but it's really gonna drive a lot of Republican agenda, because this is probably a GOP person's worst nightmare. That's for sure. So. Yeah, in a rambling speech on Thursday afternoon, it was riddled with falsehoods and vague promises to confront a crisis at the border. Trump's used the official backdrop of the White House to step his efforts to demonize a caravan of Central Americans that had been making its way through Mexico, assail Democrats, and promote a vision of the United States. It would be better off with fewer, if not no, immigrants. So pretty much what he's doing right now is he's attacking illegal immigration, ending birthright citizenship, things like that. Just immigrants who are not even immigrants, who are kids of immigrants who have lived in this country. And it's pretty incredible. People who have lived in this country who are now in their 30s. This is the 14th Amendment that was pretty much designed to protect against slavery and things like that. It was pretty much able to grant. It was made to grant slave citizenship, and is now under threat, pretty much. And it is incredible that this is the that is the situation that we're dealing with here. So the president, who ordered troops to respond to migrants in the caravan who throw rocks as if they're brandishing firearms, saying, "I told them, consider it a rifle." Wow. And he said his government had already begun to construct massive cities of tents to imprison legal and illegal immigrants who try to enter the United States. That is some scary stuff to hear. There's a good debate going on worth having that you're wondering, is it all just for the election? Is it just pretty much basically built to ramp up fear of the election and stuff like that? But oh no, it is going to be very, very tough to it's going to be very, very tough to stave some of this off, because he's probably going to feel pretty motivated to do it. Sure, it's definitely some part the election, some part just trying to get up some support for him. And I'm sure he knows what he's doing, but the question is, it's very likely that we should see something in this vein. We could see something in this vein if Trump does end up taking power, or he does end up keeping power, especially with Senate Republicans. and especially with House Republicans, if they keep majority in the House, God forbid. At this point, it's pretty much where I'm at. This is a defense of our country, Trump declared from a lectern in the Roosevelt Room before leaving the White House to attend a campaign rally in Missouri. We have no choice. We have to defend our borders. We will defend our country. The president also played fast and loose with the truth. At one point, said 97% of immigrants apprehended at the border released into the United States, they do not show up for trials. The number is closer to, you guessed it, 28%. He also said the government is no longer releasing immigrants while they await trial. Meanwhile, migrants are being caught and released at the border regularly, as has happened for decades. And that's the way it's supposed to be, because they're supposed to come back for the trial. And that's the stupid law that we have in place right now that's not really working, because it's overloading our court systems, and it's just generally awful. He had a lot of strong young men. He continued, a lot of men we maybe don't want in this country. That's what he says there on that situation. No, it's mostly women and children and families fleeing horrible violence in their own countries. Like, yeah, I mean, and you also, by the way, because he said this personally. He said he's fine with foreigners coming in. But, quote, why can't we get the ones from Norway? I mean, come on. Yeah, I wonder why so many people from Norway don't want to go in here. Like, if I lived in Norway, I'd be staying in Norway. I don't know if especially now, I would definitely be staying in Norway. I would no need to come to the United States for any of this. Like, I'd be perfectly fine. Yeah. They've attacked, he added, which is not true at all. In recent weeks, Trump has promised a number of actions to demonstrate a renewed crackdown on immigrants. Well, he has followed through on one of them, ordering increased military units at the border. That could be bad. And I mean, trust me when I say this, there is a large percentage of Trump supporters who probably support some sort of violence there at the border, like immediately, because they believe like these are foreign invaders. Like, if they were there and they actually saw the caravan walk by, they would like literally their brains would explode, like the end scene of like the first movie of Kingsman. Like, that's what it'll look like, because they're like, what? They're like, families? Women and children? What? How? I don't get this. It's not what Trump told me. And they'll just go. Because, like, that is what it's really gotten up to a dangerous point. And there's violence against Jews, there's violence against Democrats, top two of the president's favorites, enemies, and you better believe violence against immigrants is going to get worse, especially now after this stuff. A new proposal to give migrant families the choice to willingly separate from their children. We are working on it, Trump said. The presidential proclamation and regulation aids had been promised. Aides had promised to bring an end to asylum for illegal immigrants. They are finalizing them, he added, and he promised an executive order next week, providing no details, but saying it would be quite comprehensive illegal immigration executive order next week. Absolutely thrilling. All right, we're going to move on now to the progressive surge throughout rural America. Leslie Cockburn. She is running as a Democrat in Virginia's 5th District, stretching from North Carolina border all the way to the outer suburbs of Washington, D.C. And it's, I think it's Virginia. Yeah, Virginia's 5th District. And, she spent the last 3 decades as actually an acclaimed investigative journalist, including at CBS's 60 Minutes. She was not trying to uncover any official malfeasance, though, when she took out her notebook. She was actually trying to figure out how much her political views actually aligned with the districts. The people who she met were not conservative caricatures of rural voters drawn by constituents, drawn by consultants and media people of Washington, but they held broadly progressive views, and even if they might reject the labels. So it's a very actually important thing to realize. Like, a lot of these people, they just don't know they're progressive. Like, that's the insane thing. Like, they think, progressive is liberal hippies with blue hair. And it's like, no, that's not it. That's not the way it's supposed to work. It's actually broadly untrue. It's like broadly untrue. And that's the way, like, you see our polls in this country, and like, there has to be some place somewhere, and there actually are places like these, like the way Leslie Cockburn is, the place Leslie Cockburn is in like the way the district Leslie Cockburn is in is a relatively rural district, and it's something really that Democrats have been struggling with recently. They've been very much struggling to find some traction in these districts, which is pretty crazy. Because one of the biggest things the Democratic Party has always said, is they're going to take the power back through the whole food districts. They've been telling anyone who's been listening, it's the whole food districts that's going to lead them back to power, which is actually pretty amazing. Because, there's so many other better ways. There's better ways to do it. There's better ways to ensure the broader part of the country and get the working class back on your side. And it's what Leslie Cockburn is doing. She says, quote, to The Intercept, if you talk to a lot of people in these rural areas, you find that a huge number of them are very, a huge number of very what I call mainstream, old-fashioned Democrats. It's simple, basic. They believe in a living wage. They believe in collective bargaining. They believe in decent health care for everyone. She was there to accept an endorsement at the National Committee to Preserve Social Security at this rally at the Social Security office in Farmville, Virginia, which had chosen her GOP opponent, Denver Riggleman, a Trump-backed Air Force opponent. Denver Riggleman. That's such an odd name. It sounds like it's a fat British dude with a cup of tea in his hand. Denver Riggleman, would you like a more cup of tea and a little bit of a biscuit? That's pretty much what it seems like this kind of guy is. So it's, again, for the Democrats, supposed to be the Whole Foods party. It's going to be all the Whole Foods districts populated by college-educated white voters who are turned off by the GOP's explicit turn towards bigotry in recent years. Those districts largely went for Republican Mitt Romney and are currently represented by Republicans in Congress, even after many of them went for Hillary in 2016. CNN predicted a suburban tsunami as those Romney and Clinton districts orient themselves towards Democrats. Elsewhere, Democrats are hoping to win back more working-class districts that went for Barack Obama and flipped then for Trump in 2016, and that's the better part of that is the Barack Obama district, because the way the Democrats need to go is and Beto O'Rourke said it in a town hall to Chris Matthews. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what we need to do. He said, what's going on? We have Chris Matthews challenged him. He asked a question what's going on? Is there a problem here when Democrats seem to really be no longer the party of the working class, the party of the down and disabled, the people, he said, the people who don't get the breaks. And Beto O'Rourke was that's the problem. We've gone away from the real people and we focus for PACs. And obviously, he's exactly right on that front. And and the real people, the working class people, they've seen that, and they're not just going to vote for Democrats all the time. They're going to flip and switch eventually. And Trump offered that perfect fake populist message at the perfect time to surge to the top. And if the Democrats come back and focus on that area, really understand, listen to their needs, and I don't think it's going to be a Democratic Party and the people in Washington, D.C. who's going to do it. It's really going to have to be individual candidates. I think that could be really successful by the end. So yeah, Cockburn and a host of other progressives are trying to take it further. If you try to take it further, and going to districts that went for Romney in 2012 and also for Trump in 2016. They're running values-driven campaigns that take on the aims of the establishment of both parties, and the results show a surprising number of close races in districts national Democrats have long written off. Rural America, this wave of candidates thinks is ready for a realignment, according to The Intercept. On the stage in Ames, Iowa, a congressional candidate challenging Steve King. J.D. Scholten, give him a round of applause, everybody. Let's support him. Let's go out, support J.D. Scholten, please. Support J.D. Scholten, gang. Yeah, we got to get that out there. Support J.D. Scholten, everybody. But he saw this tweet the other day. He said it made him laugh. It's a blue wave. That means Democrats are going to do very well within 20 miles of a Whole Foods. This district doesn't have a Whole Foods. I'm okay with that. Yeah, that's Steve King. Challenger J.D. Scholten actually doing well out there. He's embraced the populist approach of Senator Bernie Sanders, who's traveled to Iowa to campaign on Scholten's behalf, and arguing that the Democrats will win in this district, which Republicans have held for more than 2 decades. Scholten offers cites the famous quote from the movie The Field of Dreams: "If you build it, they will come." And it's absolutely right. Because I'm talking about building a Whole Foods or even a baseball stadium. He's among the corn stalks, although he was once a minor league pitcher. He's talking about offering a